Ladies and gentlemen, gather round and let's unravel one of the great mysteries of modern romance. What truly happens when you stop texting her? What alchemy brews in the recesses of her mind when your name no longer lights up her phone? To kick things off, allow me to introduce Ryan. Ah, poor Ryan, a man of noble intentions and a heart caught in a tangle of text messages. He's been chatting with Emma, the object of his affection. At first, their conversation was a symphony of emojis and late-night exchanges. But then, like a summer breeze, Emma's replies grew sporadic, her enthusiasm waned, and Ryan found himself staring at his phone more than he'd care to admit. Now, here Ryan sits, plagued by the eternal question: do I keep texting her, or do I let the silence do the talking? Today, my friends, we'll dive deep into the curious workings of a woman's mind when the texts cease. Why does stepping back often turn the tide? And how can this decision transform the way she sees you? Stick around, because each revelation builds upon the last, weaving together a tapestry of attraction, intrigue, and the undeniable power of a well-timed pause. Point 1. Women and the magnetic power of attention. Let's begin by dusting off one of life's most fascinating truths. Women, much like men, savor attention. Yet for many women, especially those accustomed to an endless stream of admiration, it becomes less a treat and more a regular part of the scenery, like streetlights on a well-traveled road. When you're texting her day in and day out, pouring out your thoughts like a bubbling brook, you may not realize she's categorized you as just another lamp along that street. Oh, she enjoys the glow, sure enough, but it doesn't stop her in her tracks. Now, let's examine the phenomenon of absence. When you stop texting, that steady beam of light flickers and fades, and suddenly she notices the darkness. For a woman accustomed to the warm hum of male attention, this sudden shift feels like a jukebox cutting out mid-song. She's left wondering, what happened? Did he grow tired of me? Or worse, is he chatting up someone else? Curiosity blossoms. Frustration creeps in. Imagine your favorite cafe, where the barista knows your order by heart. Every morning, like clockwork, you waltz in, and they greet you with your coffee, no questions asked. But one fateful morning, you step up to the counter, and the barista barely looks up, let alone remembers your drink. It's unsettling, isn't it? That's precisely the feeling she gets when your consistent attention vanishes. It's not just the absence, it's the mystery of it. Point 2. Why you should stop texting her. Now, let's pivot to a question that cuts right to the bone. Why should you, a man of wit and wisdom, stop texting her? Here's the blunt truth. If you've made your feelings clear, whether through a grand confession, or simply by the way your messages linger like poetry in her inbox, and she's not responding in kind, then you're in a game of diminishing returns. The more you pour out, the less you get back. Picture yourself chasing a butterfly through a sunlit meadow. You sprint, arms outstretched, yet every step seems to drive the delicate creature further away. Now imagine this. You stop. You sit beneath a shady tree and let the breeze carry you into stillness. That same butterfly, in its own time, flutters back and lands gently on your shoulder. The lesson? Sometimes less is more. By halting your texts, you accomplish two crucial things. First, you reclaim your sense of dignity and power. Instead of chasing after a connection that seems elusive, you stand firm, signaling that your time and attention are worth something. Second, you introduce a touch of mystery into the equation. A woman who's grown accustomed to your availability may now find herself replaying past conversations, wondering why the faucet of your words has been turned off. But here's the twist, gentlemen. This isn't just about her. Stepping back is as much for you as it is for her. It's an opportunity to reassess, to pause and ask yourself, am I chasing someone who values me? Or am I running after a mirage? In this pause, you may just find the clarity to redirect your attention to someone who recognizes its worth. Point 3. Women who thrive on attention. Now, let's take a stroll into the curious mind of a woman who flourishes under the warm glow of attention. For some women, particularly those accustomed to being the dazzling centerpiece in any room, validation isn't just a cherry on top, it's the entire dessert. They bask in it, like flowers stretching toward the sun, whether it comes from genuine admirers or the casual glances of passers-by. Your steady stream of texts, dear reader, might be less about romance to her and more about reassurance. Proof that the world continues to orbit around her. In her world, your attention is applause, a standing ovation in the theatre of her life. But what happens when the applause halts? When the curtain falls too soon? At first, she may be puzzled. Why isn't he texting? Did I miss a cue? Has he forgotten his lines? The confusion builds into curiosity. And curiosity, as every storyteller knows, is the kindling for interest. If she had even the faintest spark of attraction toward you, your sudden withdrawal might fan it into flame. Consider, if you will, the modern obsession with social media. People post pictures, not just to share moments, but to bask in the validation of likes and comments. Now imagine posting something and hearing nothing but crickets. It's unsettling. That's precisely how she feels when your once reliable texts vanish into the void. In that silence, she begins to question. Was it her? Was it you? Or was it something else entirely? And just like that, you've slipped into her thoughts, setting the stage for her to wonder what happens next. Point 4. Women who don't want attention. But not all women crave the spotlight. Some, even the most radiant among them, have little patience for unsolicited attention. If she's sent you signals clearer than a lighthouse on a foggy night, be it ghosting, friend-zoning, or flat-out rejecting you, then stopping your texts isn't a strategy, it's a mercy. Imagine, if you will, a persistent salesperson hawking something you've firmly said you don't need. Every pitch feels more grating than the last. But when they finally leave you in peace, there's a sweet relief, isn't there? For some women, your silence after her rejection feels just like that. A release from the weight of unreciprocated interest. And here's the twist of fate. Should she ever have a change of heart down the line, it won't be your persistence she remembers, but your poise. Your graceful exit becomes your legacy, a quiet nod to her boundaries and your self-respect. The lesson here is simple. Walking away isn't surrender, it's self-respect wrapped in wisdom. In stepping back, you honor her wishes and reclaim your own dignity, a double victory, if ever there was one. Point 5. Breaking the fantasy trap. Now, my dear friend, let's pivot to the man in the mirror. Walking away from someone you're smitten with? Easier said than done. When you're drawn to her, your mind plays the dangerous game of weaving fantasies. Oh, the visions are vivid, aren't they? Candle-lit dinners, stolen glances, whispered dreams about the perfect little family in a picturesque house. But here's the trap. You're not just tangled up in her, you're ensnared in the dream of her. And dreams, as you know, are often sweeter than reality, but just as intangible. The longer you let this fantasy flourish, the harder it becomes to pry yourself free. What's the way out of this dreamland labyrinth? Ground yourself in the real world, strip away the gilded illusions, and look squarely at what's in front of you. Ask yourself this: is she showing you the same level of interest and effort you're giving her? If the answer's a resounding no, then it's time to stop pouring your precious energy into a well that isn't giving you water in return. Point 6. Balancing emotion and logic. This brings us to the crown jewel of dating wisdom. Never let your emotions sit in the driver's seat while your logic is tied up in the trunk. When feelings run unchecked, you risk stumbling into over-pursuit territory, the dreaded wasteland of neediness. And neediness, my friend, is the iceberg that sinks many a romantic Titanic. So, what's the antidote? Match her pace. If she sends 2 texts a day, resist the urge to unleash a torrent of 10. If her interest is lukewarm, don't come in scalding hot. Meet her energy with balance and grace. Let me offer you a light-hearted analogy. Imagine a tennis match. A proper game is a delightful rally, a give and take of effort, energy, and enthusiasm. But if one player keeps serving ball after ball while the other just stands there, it's no longer a match. It's an exhausting, one-sided workout. So, keep the rhythm steady, my friend. Engage her, but only as much as she engages you. That's how you keep the game alive, the spark alight, and your dignity intact. After all, love should be a dance, not a chase, and definitely not a solo sprint to nowhere. Point 7. The long game. Now, let's talk about the marathon, not the sprint. Relationships, my friend, aren't the romantic fairy tale of never-ending fireworks. They're a lot more like tending a campfire. Sure, you start with a dazzling spark, but if you don't feed the flames, you'll end up in the cold, staring at a pile of ash. Even in the happiest of long-term relationships, the danger of being taken for granted looms large. The thrill of the chase is long gone, replaced by the comforting monotony of same old, same old. But comfort can be a double-edged sword. It lulls you into thinking the work is done when, really, it's just begun. Now, don't get me wrong. This doesn't mean pulling off Broadway-worthy romantic gestures every week or whisking her away to Paris every time the spark flickers. No, sir. What it does mean is putting in the everyday effort, the kind that doesn't make headlines but keeps the wheels turning. Think of it like your car. You don't just buy it, drive it for a year, and hope for the best. No, you fill the tank, rotate the tires, and occasionally give it a wash so it doesn't look like it just survived a demolition derby. Relationships are no different. Regular doses of affection, meaningful conversations, and shared laughter. That's the maintenance plan that keeps love running smoothly for the long haul. Well, if you've wandered with me this far, my friend, you're already miles ahead of most when it comes to understanding not only the labyrinthine corridors of female psychology, but also the priceless worth of your own time and dignity. That's no small victory, let me tell you. Here's the golden truth to tuck into your pocket as you leave. Dating, much like a waltz, takes 2 willing partners. If she's stuck at the bar, nursing her drink, uninterested in taking the floor, don't waste your night waiting on her. The music's still playing, the dance floor's wide open, and the right partner will match your steps when the time is right. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever pulled the plug on texting someone and watched the story unfold? Did it stir curiosity, ignite attraction, or simply provide the sweet relief of moving on? Share your tales in the comments below. Let's swap some wisdom and a few good laughs. And before you dash off, do me a small favor. Hit that like button, share this video with a friend who could use a little clarity, and subscribe to the channel for more insights and stories that'll keep your head and heart in the game. Until next time, remember, your time is your treasure, so spend it wisely and with someone who truly values it.